Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to imagine a tiny, incredibly shadowy room. This is a claustrophobic place where all those grand titles we wear out there in the real world, they literally mean absolutely nothing in here. Today, we're deconstructing the sacred persona and exploring what we can call the philology of the cell. We're going to be looking at the very words we use to build our identities, all through the eyes of two men in a grim, dark fable who have just lost everything. So picture this stark 6x4 stone cell. A knight who is just utterly exhausted drops his heavy breastplate to the stone floor. Clang! He just mutters, "My shoulders have grown into the shape of this steel." And sitting right across from him in the absolute dark is a priest. These two are trapped together, completely unified by this profound mutual failure. Basically, their grand external lives have totally collapsed.
Moving into Section 1, the claustrophobic stone room. This physical space acts as this massive psychological catalyst. It literally forces these characters to just abandon all their hollow social rituals. Now that they're stripped of the grand halls and sprawling battlefields, this dark stone creates this terrifying kind of funhouse mirror reflection. On one side, you have the projected knight. That's this elaborate persona built entirely on projecting absolute strength, right? But on the other side, stripped of his armor and his societal function, you just have the nameless man. And without a shiny title to hide behind, he's paralyzed. He's forced to confront this really terrifying deep internal emptiness.
And that brings us to Section 2, Armor and the Vanishing Man. Let's really look at this breakdown from the knight's perspective. So the knight is staring at his grime-streaked hands and this flickering candle flame, and he starts realizing the philology of his own ruin. It's fascinating, because in the old tongue, the word identity actually implies sameness or this constant repetition of the self. And he did exactly that. He repeated the role of the knight day after day, battle after battle, until the actual living man beneath the metal just vanished. He finally sees that he was merely wearing a persona. Do you know the root meaning of that word? It literally means a mask for a stage. It turns out his entire existence outside of this claustrophobic room was purely performative. He just let himself get so completely distracted by the elaborate performance of his title that he mistook the metal mask for his actual true face. And then he completely deconstructs his very core purpose, his armature, that means fitting with weapons. He spent his whole life believing that being armed and dangerous was his one and only grace. But here, trapped in the 6x4 space, he realizes that armor was a total illusion. It was a prison. Those weapons did absolutely nothing to protect who he was on the inside.
Which leads to Section 3, Sanctity in the Hollow Cavern. Now let's shift over to the priest's side of the cell.
Across the room, the priest finally pulls this heavy cowl from his face, revealing his own shattered projections. You see, he sought his sanctity in profound silence. Think about the word sacred. We call things sacred because they are set apart, coming from the root sacre. But the problem is, in his obsessive pursuit of perfection, he set himself so far apart from humanity that he devolved into this hollow, empty cavern. He always guarded his vulnerability like it was some kind of dark secret. But look at the root of that word. Vulnerable comes from vulnus, which means a wound. Here's the crazy psychological paradox. By spending a lifetime trying to be completely unwoundable, perfectly holy, perfectly insulated, he actually lost the capacity to be hurt. And the tragedy here is that without the capacity to be hurt, he had absolutely no capacity to be real.
Moving on to Section 4, the inverted journey. This shared descent into failure turns the cell into a real study of the very words used to build their broken lives.
Going back to our funhouse mirror concept, for years these guys were chasing divine, unreachable heights, whether that was through external valor for the knight or distant holiness for the priest. But it turns out, constantly chasing a distant sky just made them ghosts haunting their own lives. Now that they're totally stripped of those illusions, they're forced right here into the narrow cell, which is where the messy, unfiltered truth actually lives.
So let's walk through this inverted journey, because it requires a pretty brutal psychological shift. Step 1, you have to abandon the performative masks and those hollow social rituals. Step 2, confronting that terrifying internal emptiness of suddenly being nameless without your societal function. And Step 3, achieving radical vulnerability. You see, true identity isn't discovered by climbing higher and higher. It's found by digging deep down and actually allowing yourself to be wounded.
Which brings us to Section 5, the Ember Voice. Because this mutual failure, it isn't the end.
Actually, scratch that. It's really just the beginning. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that in this cramped 6x4 space, the ember voice, that warm, honest breath of the human, is literally the only true thing they have left. Real sanctuary, real divine truth, isn't found in some grand temple or perfect sky. It's found right here. It's forged in the raw warmth and courageous shared struggle between two profoundly flawed people.
This right here is the true intersection of the human and the holy. And honestly, this matters immensely for all of us, even outside of this fable. Because when that long-held silence of your own ego finally evaporates and you let go of those elaborate personas, you can stop performing for everybody else. You can start truly engaging with your authentic self, just like these two are doing in the dark.
So what does this all mean for you? It leaves us with a pretty haunting, lingering question that I think we all have to face eventually. When your own metaphorical armor is completely stripped away, when the grand titles, the stage masks, and all those performative roles are just totally gone, what remains in your narrow cell? I really hope this leaves you hungry to go out and explore your own deeper truths.